Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fieros with Tri-City Equity Group. Today, we've got Angel Williams on the show. Angel has been involved in real estate investing her whole life, but actually began her personal journey into real estate investing in 2003. She's a co-founder of the Academy, presents and a managing partner of Lauren Capital. You can see that there in the background. Angel has experience in single-family home rentals, residential multifamily syndication, and oil and gas. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic, especially dealing with real estate. She graduated from Baylor in 2000. With a BBA in economics, and in 2002 with a master's in economics as well. So we're talking to an economics wizard over here. But yeah, we can dive in a little bit more into Angel's history and her background. Angel, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, no, glad to have you on. Well, for those of our audience that may not be familiar with you, you obviously got, some color going on. I love kind of the graphics and whatnot that there in the background for you guys' Academy. I definitely get Schoolhouse Rocks, vibes, which is what, no, that's me. I'm aging myself there with that reference, but
no, that's you're kind of right on.
But yeah, give us a little bit about your background. How did you get started in real estate? What brought you to the point where you guys are at now, where you're raising capital for syndications, and you got tons of experience. So fill our listeners in a little bit about your history and your background and what you got going on.
Absolutely. So my husband and I both grew up in families that invested in residential real estate. So been in the investing space, been in it my whole life. My husband and I got our first house in 2003. It became our first rental once he finished his dissertation, or once he finished his doctorate and we moved on. So it became our first rental in 2007. And then we were like, well, we're going to stick with the residential stuff. So we've been in residential for about 20 years. Now, while we were in Lubbock and he was finishing up his doctorate, I started teaching. So I began teaching in 2003, and I did K through 12 for about 17 years in various different roles. So when you said, oh, hey, Schoolhouse Rocks, well, I'm an educator. I still teach college. I've been teaching college since 2004. Oh. So, it's the teacher in me. And so the Academy Presents REI Rocks is really our educational platform. And I got out of the W-2 before my husband did, and I couldn't understand why he wasn't fulfilled, because my teacher heart was overflowing. I went from being in the classroom to doing the Academy Presents REI Rocks. And my teacher heart is absolutely exploding, and I'm feeling fulfilled each and every day. And he wasn't, because he wasn't having the same experience I was. He was still in his W-2. And this would have been probably, I left formally teaching in 2020. So he was still in his W-2. We had gotten into multifamily, kind of exploring the space like 2017, 2018. So we maintain the residential stuff, and we still have residential stuff. We haven't gotten rid of it. Nothing can touch those returns. None of our original money is still tied up in any of those assets. So we've got infinite returns. Sure. We're never going to get rid of our residential stuff. And if another residential property falls in our laps, guess what? We're probably going to buy it. We bought 2 houses for $55,000 a piece. The last thing we bought, it was in a 2 property portfolio. $110,000 for 2 houses, and they cash flow $200-$300 a piece. Really? Yeah, that's like a no-brainer. And we refied another house to buy those 2 and walked away from closing with $17,000. So like I said, if something falls in our lap, we're going to get it. We're not of that mindset of sell out all your residential and go multifamily. That was not what we did. We started passively investing in 2018, 2019 was when we first started passive investing. And then Jason was ready to leave his W-2. His company decided to move to Houston. They did not take his position with them. He still consults for the company, which he actually gets paid way better as a consultant. But he's still kind of working with the company. But his time is really his own now. He works, I think he works with the company. His consulting hours are like 20 hours a month or something. It's not a whole bunch. He may have to travel down there every so often, but not a real big deal. And so when he left his job, he started underwriting. And as sick as that makes me thinking of all the numbers and all the spreadsheets, that is absolutely his lane, and he loves it, and he's finally fulfilled. And so now we're here in the multifamily space. We got our first deal across the finish line in December of 21, second deal across in December of 22. And we actually got a call about a week ago. We are the only people that are being offered the property. It is 100% off market. And that's way cool. And it's another one here in our backyard. First property is 15 minutes from the house. Second property is 3.7 miles from the house. It's all right here, and it's amazing. And I cannot imagine investing anywhere other than our backyard.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And just so we can kind of know what market are you operating in?
Okay, so we are in North Texas, but not Dallas-Fort Worth. We're about 2 hours to the left of Dallas-Fort Worth, and we're about 2 hours south of Oklahoma City.
Gotcha. So, yeah, you guys are further up, like Panhandle almost kind of area.
Not quite the Panhandle.
Not quite.
We're about 20 minutes from the Oklahoma border.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if you come straight down from Oklahoma City and like straight across from DFW, it's not quite in the angle there. A little bit up inside of it.
I gotcha. Yeah, I'm a Texas boy originally too. I grew up in San Antonio, but didn't spend too much time in North Texas. Much more time in South Texas. So 5
hours away down 35, and you take 287 across.
Yeah. Huge state. I mean, for those of you guys, I mean, a lot of our listeners are, of course, very familiar with Texas, but Texas is massive. It's one thing to look at it on a map, completely something different to drive across it, north to south or east to west. I mean, it literally will take you a full day either way. So, yeah, got to stop at Buc-ee's or somewhere else along the way. Well, that's very cool. I mean, that's awesome that you guys are able to, for one, like operate in your own backyard. For a lot of people, there's two sides to that coin, right? Like some people will not invest, and we experience this a lot. I mean, I've been in Hawaii for going on 14 years. So there's a lot of people here that just will not invest away from Hawaii. And then there's other investors that will we'll go clear across the country, like wherever it makes sense. You just happen to be in a position where it's like, no, well, it makes sense. And it just happens to be in our backyard too. So that you've got the kind of a benefit there.
Sort of.
I see your bacon faces.
Well, so, I mean, okay. So there are people that come into Wichita Falls and they think, hey, it's going to be like DFW. It's not DFW. We're not a Phoenix. We're not a 3X. We're hold it slow and steady. You're going to get your 2 in 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 2X for that, but it's slow and steady. Other places right now are seeing rent go down. Ours is not. But we've been investing here on the residential side for 16 years. We know our market. There are people that have come to Wichita Falls from out of town, out of state, and they aren't nearly as successful as we have been because we know our market. And you can research a market all you want, but until you've lived there for like a decade and a half, you're not going to have the same insight. Like there's just, I'm not trying to like pump us up like we're the best out there, but it's just going to be tough to compete with someone that has the kind of market insights that we do.
Yeah.
At least
no, I mean,
this particular part, this particular spot.
Sure. No, that's your unfair advantage specifically in that market, right? Like versus somebody who's outside capital or whatever, like looking for a new market, like you're always going to have the inside track because there you've established roots, you've got connections, you know, all the ins and outs. Hey, I know the path of progress. I've seen, these areas change and all that kind of stuff. So no, that's definitely playing into your favor, especially for like that, like an unfair advantage going against, if you're competing, right? So yeah, that's awesome.
Like even people that come from DFW to here,
I
mean, we're still going to outshine them.
I love it. There's a little Texas rivalry going on. Like you got to hear that for other operators. Like, no, that's great though. You got the home field advantage over there for sure.
Absolutely.
No, that's cool. And that's cool too, that you're still teaching as well, right? Is that what I'm gathering as well?
I'm not teaching. Well, I say I'm not. I do some dual credit here and there. Dual credits, still high school, but you get college credit. But then I do a few semesters here and there for Wayland Baptist University. So I still teach. It's not full time. But I still teach here and there when I'm needed, and it's fun, and it keeps me on top of my game, so I don't totally lose out from everything I learned from all those years I put in at college. Even though I don't really, it's so funny. Like, I don't really use that to make money, but it's still nice to have those insights and to be able to draw from them. And like, it's super funny too, because like, so I have my master's degree. My husband has his doctorate. Our daughter's 15. She's in high school, and we're like, if you want to go to college for the experience, okay, but you don't have to go to college for an occupation.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sit back and we're like, what the hell did we just say?
Right. Yeah. Because you guys have been so committed for to higher education. Says my mom and dad, who have like graduate level degrees and whatnot. So, but
it's crazy.
This is how it works, though. But this is the change, right? Like, this is kind of the modernization with how learning has happened, right? I'm sure you've been an educator for that long. You see this shift, right? Like, and there's so much resources and available knowledge. It's more accessible now than ever before. So yeah, I mean, I don't think you're wrong at all in telling your daughter, like, hey, you don't necessarily, if you want to, awesome, go for it, but you don't have to do that. That's what we tell our kids too. Say, hey, we're here to support you, but don't feel like you've got to go get a master's or doctor or something like that just to be able to to find a position that pays well, or in most cases, like you guys, I'm sure, have done, probably you got a higher ceiling now, let's say, going and doing business on your own than potentially, like, let's say, as an educator, right?
We didn't become millionaires because my husband's a chemical engineer and I'm an economist.
Right.
I mean, we didn't find financial freedom because of our degrees.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So
and that's very
I
common.
think that's really where it comes from.
Yeah. And you said that you're not teaching anymore, but really you are, right? Like, because all of that experience it carries over to what you guys are doing now, right? It's
getting to do the podcast, and we do 2 3-day virtual summits every year. We have 50 to 60 speakers, panelists, roundtable participants, masterclass instructors, just speakers in general. I mean, and I'm getting to one-on-one with those people during those entire events and everything leading up to that. And then I get to share it with people. And we have a free tier. We have, like, this past summit that we just did had over 35 hours of free content for people to just sign up and view. And those are the things that literally my teacher heart, which I will have forever and ever, it explodes with happiness and joy, because I'm getting to share with people. I'm getting to share information and experiences and knowledge and help people grow their brains. And I just love that.
Well, that's a win-win, because it's like, well, not only does all of the experience that you have on the education side, these years spending teaching, like I said, in a formal setting, now you get to, that does carry over directly to, and of course, I'm sure, whatever classes that you, let's say, taught previously, we'd like to think whatever teaching we do has life impact, right, for our students. In this instance, that it can have generational impact, right, when you're helping people, on the financial side. That's the kind of stuff that can carry over, right? Like, this is the kind of stuff where it's like, well, hey, I'm not just teaching you, ethics or economics or whatever. No, this is practical application. Go do this today, because if you do this today, I can guarantee you 10 years, 20 years down the road, this is the kind of stuff that will set you up. This is the kind of stuff that you're going to have, your grandkids and all that stuff. This can leave legacy wealth. And yeah, that's got to be super fulfilling, especially as an educator, awesome. which is awesome to hear. So that's great.
It's super cool.
Yeah. And then I know you work with your husband, I'm somebody who works with my spouse also, kind of on the business side.
Not a bunch of us.
Well, I think it's it's an interesting dynamic, right? Because everybody kind of gets locked into their own careers. And it sounds like, I mean, you guys could have definitely too, right? Like, hey, you're an educator, you're kind of doing your thing. He's an engineer, he's over there doing his thing. It'd be very easy. Hey, you guys are, high level, performers working in your individual lanes. And it's be very easy. And I think for a lot of people it is, hey, I do my thing, you do your thing. We can benefit us both, but when you find that kind of magical connection, that you guys have found a way to work together, right? Then it can be even better. Tell us a little bit kind of how you guys have found ways to work with each other and not be at each other's throats, which some people think that can happen, which, can, but. There
have been times where it's been tough, but like for the most part, we work in separate rooms. So we're not hearing what each other's saying. And so we have our own things going, but like, there have been times where, like our first deal, when they say 0 to 1 is the hardest, it is no joke.
Mm-hmm.
We went through 2 GP teams before we finally got a third GP team that got it across the finish line. We had $100,000 of our own money that had gone hard day one.
Mm.
It was hard. And after the second GP team imploded, we were trying to find somebody that could come on and help us out. And we made a list of, I think, like 35 people. And in my mind, I'm like, we're going to have somebody that helps us in the first 5 phone calls. Wasn't the first 5, wasn't the first 10, wasn't the first 15. It was call 16 that finally helped us, dropped everything he was doing and helped us. But every time I get off the phone, it was like Jason took off his spouse hat and put on his business partner hat. And he started pushing me. And there's a little bit more to the story. Like, he was at work and it was noon and he was calling me. I wasn't answering. And so he comes home at lunch because all he could think was, we're about to lose $100,000. And I can't think about anything else other than we're about to lose $100,000. And he comes in the bedroom and he's like, I am so glad that you're just asleep and you're not drunk. Because let me tell you, for real, like the alcoholism hit during that first deal. It was rough. There was a lot of drinking going on. And so he gets home and he's like, go take a shower, go get in the shower. And so he like gets me to kind of get up because I was way depressed. We're about to lose $100,000. Our second team had just imploded. And he's like herding me into the shower. He's like, go get in the shower, wake up. We're going to make phone calls. But it was really taking off the spouse hat and putting on the business partner hat because I get out of the shower. He's like, okay, let's start making some phone calls. And so I call the first person, and it was, for the first 10 calls, it was like gut punches and sucker punches. It was like, hey, keep smiling and dialing. I'm like, oh, thanks. We need help. I don't need to keep smiling and dialing. I need help. And then I'd hang up and he's like, okay, who's the next person you're going to call? And I'd hang up, who's the next person on the list? And he just kept pushing. And he doesn't like to push that way. But he had put on his business partner hat. And he told me later, he was like, I hated pushing you like that. But at the same time, I would not have gotten it done if he hadn't pushed me like that. And it was literally call 16. And it was Agustin Nepenthes. And he dropped everything he was doing. He helped us get a loan product. He helped us get back on track. And once we had a loan product, we'd gone through 12 or 15. We were not able to get a loan. He helped. Once we had a loan product, then it was like, okay, let's rebuild. And we started rebuilding and we got a third team going. And that third team was the team that got us across the finish line. And up until that point, we'd only raised about $250,000 from family and friends. I think it was actually family. I shouldn't even say friends, family. And then after the third team got created, my friend Frank Pedalano came on. He was a fellow teacher also. He left teaching for real estate. And I don't know what it is about Frank, but he like makes me competitive. And then I get excited and I start picking up traction. And we raised $1 million on that first deal. And awesome. The thing that's important about that one is us with Frank, we were the lead sponsors. Between the three of us, we had enough experience, liquidity, and net worth to get the loan. And then it was just about picking up a few extra people here and there. And it was just amazing. It was, we raised $1 million, we needed 1.9. And then Frank like put in a whole bunch of his own money to just help us get across the finish line. He hadn't bought that hotel in Punta Cana yet, so he still had more liquidity. So he helped us get that first deal. And it was just amazing. And we learned so much. And so you're building these relationships and you think you're going to come across people that are going to help you in that first phone call. And it took us 15 phone calls. And it wasn't until the 16th that we got the help we got. But we had a list of 35. So you want to constantly be building those relationships and not the superficial kind. You want the kind that you can ask for favors and people will actually help you. And I think that part is really important too. I call it more than a handshake relationship. And you really want to focus on that because, well, for me as a female, I don't have enough elasticity to waste smiling at superficial relationships. So I'd rather smile because I'm happy and because I'm having a good time and because we've got a more than a handshake relationship. It's kind of like my guideline, but it was, I don't know, that getting that first deal across the finish line and being able to build that list and having Jason push me through those phone calls. It was, he and I grew as a couple, but we also grew as business partners. And I think for spouses that are working in this space together or partners that are working in this space together, you have to be able to go from partner to spouse and realize those are different roles, but you still have the other role at the same time.
Right.
And it's really hard. Like I get kind of petty. Maybe I get a lot petty, but it was knowing that he had to put the partner hat on. I didn't get petty with him about that later.
Sure.
So there's a lot of weird nuances in having your spouse as your partner. And so you just there's a lot of things to work through with it, but it can absolutely work. And the relationship can get stronger and your friendship can get stronger. And then your business partnership can get stronger too. And it's just a really cool progression.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. And there's a bunch of stuff there that we can unpack.
That's great. Up like 20 loops at a time.
No, but that's great though, because, there's some people out there that are, they want to, like, let's say maybe they want to work with their spouse, but they don't think it's possible, right? Because of, let's say, the personality thing, or they think, hey, look, I can't wear both of those hats, just as you mentioned, right? It's like, well, that's my spouse, that's my wife, that's my husband. And I'm not going to be able to do it. It's like, you know what? But you're going to be able to do it with love, right? Like, hey, I need to push you a little bit as a, on the business side, just from a practical standpoint. But that person is pushing because, because for one, it's necessary, but they're going to do it with your best intention in mind too. They're not just driving just to drive, right? Like they're just not, it's not purely like a business decision, right? They do it because, hey, you know what? I want to see the best of you. I know you're capable of it. I'm going to do it with some care. And really, I mean, it's the highest level of kind of like partner that you're going to have, right? And it sounds like you guys have also, in making those additional calls and whatnot, I think a lot about, and I don't know if you follow Ed Milet, but I think of the power of one more. His always thing is just like, well, it's, hey, if you're in the gym, it's just the one more rep, right? In your case, it's that one more phone call, right? Just do one more, right? Because if you would have given up at 15, man, you're 6 figures out. The deal falls apart. Who knows, what kind of stress that puts on your relationship, your marriage, right? But it's like, well, no, one more dial. Let's just do one more dial. And hey, number 16 is the magic one, right? So you just never know, right? It's the what is it? The 6 feet from gold, or is it? Yeah, I think that's the title. Yeah. You just don't know how far away. So you know what? Just take that next step. Just take that and make that next call, right? It could be something magical. And for you guys, it's like that was your first deal, right? So that's a huge. Yeah, that's a huge thing. And it's like, okay, well, where does that take you from now, right? Like you guys have already done multiple, or you're working on some other stuff. So that's awesome.
That's great. And I think about it too. And it was so uncomfortable for Jason to push me. Because when people start pushing me, I push back. I'm 5'2". I used to be thinner, but I'm 5'2". And when it comes to fight or flight, I'm absolutely going to fight each and every time. And so he's pushing me knowing that you keep pushing me and I'm going to fight back. And I don't know why I didn't. And I don't know if it was that I recognized that this is my business partner right now. And then later on realizing how uncomfortable that was for him. And to know that he pushed through the discomfort to push me the same way I didn't push back and kept calling. It was like this really weird realization of we just absolutely took that down as business partners, but then we're spouses too.
Yeah, no, and if he hasn't heard it, hey, Jason, make sure you're tuning in. You listen to the recording. It's like your wife is singing your praises over here, man.
Absolutely. No,
so that's awesome.
He knows that I think he's a pretty amazing big deal. So.
Very cool. That's awesome. And even that too, right? Like that for the spouses that may be listening, don't forget to do that. Don't forget that, it's not just, hey, take out the trash, honey, or whatever. Like make sure that you're singing your spouse's praise. And this works for both ends, right? Like, husbands to your wives, wives to your husbands, for sure. Like we all need it. We all need that encouragement. Don't just let everything out of your mouth be harping on them or whatever. Again, like I said, goes both ways. Hey,
absolutely.
Husbands, guys, thank your wives for, what all the things that they do, raising the kids and, making the meals and, working and all that stuff a lot of times too. So, I mean, we're for the praise needs to happen on both ways for sure. For sure.
I think that we forget too. You know what? whether it's your husband or your wife or your partner or whatever, I think that a lot of times I would forget to tell Jason how amazing I thought he was. I know that while he was working his W-2 and I left teaching on FMLA. I left because of the mental just BS. It was toxic work environment, very unhealthy mentally. And so I came out of that, and like, it was hard for me to get moving. I was really depressed. I didn't want to do anything. We're trying to do these summits, and I didn't ever step back and say, thank you for letting me stay home. Thank you for letting me take care of my mental health. But like, I actually went up in the ER. Like, I was unresponsive one morning and they called the ER. And that was when I left teaching, because it was just a really bad experience. And as I was coming back around and I looked at him, and the first thing that came out of my mouth was, please don't make me go back.
Mm.
And he was like, oh yeah, no, you're not going back. And I don't know that I ever thanked him for allowing me, I say allowing me, but for giving me that choice and for being able to take care of our family while I was really down for a long time. And even though we were doing the podcast, we were doing the summits, I was really down, and thank the Lord that there was Zoom, because all I had to do was worry about how I looked from the waist up. So I could literally just sit up, because I've got lights and everything in my bedroom. I could literally sit up, turn on the lights, open my computer, and go to Zoom, because that was all I could do. I could barely get up and take showers. Thank God for dry shampoo. Okay, I mean, it was really rough. And I don't know that I ever thanked him enough for allowing me that time that it took for me to get healthy again mentally. So if you're out there and you're not the spouse or you're on the receiving end as a spouse getting your kudos and getting your thank yous, don't forget to return that, because it's a big deal for it to go both directions.
So you guys, not only lessons in real estate, but these are life lessons too, for sure. Whatever reason you're for tuning in. I mean, hey, somebody needed to hear it today, right? Like, I mean, we all need to hear it from time to time. We need those reminders for sure. Like that's huge. We don't, and a lot of times too, like as business owners, entrepreneurs, investors, sometimes we don't realize the toll that takes on our family, right? Like we put in a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and it's easy to get kind of the kids get lost in the shuffle, or the spouse gets lost in the shuffle, especially if you're not working like together as a team. And that becomes a wedge. And it's like, well, hey, at a certain point, some people will realize, hey man, wow, I made, millions of dollars, made tons of money, but it's kind of that classic story of like, well, you left your family in the dust. Like, what do you did a lot of work, but what's the cost worth that, right? And so it's like, hey guys, for both sides, both sides of the relationship, hey, check in, make sure that you're taking care of, your partner, make sure you're taking care of your spouse, your kids, because that will be worth it. So don't lose sight of, the end goal, right? Wow, I did this for my family. I did this for my kids. Yeah. Okay. But how's your relationship with them? Right. So yeah, check in for sure. Well, too, like that kind of brings me back into like even mindset, right? Like how do you maintain that mindset kind of throughout all of this? Was that something that was like automatic, right from the get-go? Did you have to put in some work for any of that, or?
We've done a lot of mindset work because there were times, like, especially when we first started doing the summits, we just finished our 7th one. I don't even know. We've been doing it for a while now, since 2020, but I used to get really down after a summit. There was like all this leading up to it. And then we had 3 days of crazy summit, and then it would just be over. And I would be down for a couple of months. Like when I say like, I didn't even want to take showers, like thank God for dry shampoo. By the way, it quits working after about 2 weeks. You're going to have to shower. But I know these things from experience, but it was just, Jason kind of gave me the time to also just be down a little bit. And something that we've got at play too is we've got a child with profound special needs. And so as a special needs parent, and I've told other mothers this too, it's okay to have a bad day. You don't want that bad day to turn into a bad week, a bad month, a bad year, but take your bad day. And for me, it might be take 8 or 9 bad days, and then I could get kind of moving again, but it wasn't really full steam ahead. But I think just having a child and realizing that there's just going to be bad days sometimes, and acknowledging that that's okay. I think that allowed us some space too, like some space and some grace and all those key terms that people throw out there. But it worked out for us. And we had a little time too, because while all this is going on, COVID hit.
Mm.
And so I'm telling you, this virtual landscape with Zoom and all of these things, just like the universe, just like put all of these things in this beautiful little package for us. Because if I was having to get up and go places, it wouldn't have happened because I could barely sit up in bed. Like, I didn't even need to do that. There were days when it was super rough, and that's okay because you can still find success even in that. And I think about like with the gap and the gain, like if at any point I had looked at how far I was from where I wanted to be, I would have given up 3 years ago.
Mm.
But realizing that each and every day that I turned my computer on and I did those Zooms, or I went to that meetup, or I held my own meetup, every single time I did that, I was one step closer to where we wanted to eventually be.
Yep.
And so it was that piece of the mindset of just one more time, like what you were saying, just one more time. Just Angel, just sit up and turn on your lights and start it up. You're on Zoom. Nobody's going to be able to tell how nasty your hair is, or the fact that you're probably pretty smelly. Like, nobody's going to know those things. And it was literally, those were the thoughts in my head of just sit up, turn your computer on just one more time.
Yeah.
And after 3.5 years of us doing the summits and us having the podcast and our educational platform, we're in a pretty good situation. I mean, we've got 2 active deals. And then, like I said, we have that totally off market. We're the only people being offered the deal that has come to us now. And it's like, wow, this is, we're really getting to where we want to be.
Yeah. And you said it right there, right? It's literally just, okay, just one more, right? Like just push a little bit more, push a little bit more. And right now you guys are the ones that are being awarded the deal. And, there's a lot of people that are just like sitting on the sidelines, right? It's like, wow, the market's bad right now. Like, you can't buy right now or whatever, any number of different excuses that people put out. But it's like, no, hey, I'm showing up. Like I'm showing up, and guess what? You show up and eventually you're the only one on the playing field because it's like you made it to the finish line, right? And, not saying, of course, you guys are done, but hey, I'm the one there, right? Like you gotta play to win. You gotta show up. You gotta be present to win. Right. And right now, you guys, because you're showing up, because you're doing the one more, because all right, I'm going to do the meetup. I'm going to do, your academy. You got to, you do your summits and all that. Like, I'm here. Hey, yeah, you guys want the deal? Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. And now that's opportunity. Now that you guys are blessed with, gifted with, that however many people, are not. So yeah, kudos to you guys. That's awesome. Well, at this point, I kind of, I want to transition a little bit to kind of as we wind down a little bit. I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. Our part of the show where we have what we call a fire round, basically a little bit kind of more clear cut, quicker answers, and just kind of, hey, what first comes to your mind? That's what you share. Is that something you're game for?
Let's go.
All right, right on. All right. What is your best book that you recommend other than Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Because I know us as real estate investors and people in that field love Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I know I do. But recommendation outside of that one. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I love Positive Intelligence. It's I'm going to say his name wrong. Shirzad Chamine. I'm sure I'm saying that incorrectly. Don't get angry with me, Shirzad, if you ever hear this. But by far, this is my favorite book. Because it gave me a lot of insight into some of the reasons why I am the way I am. My husband, this is an issue of like contention for us because he finds all of his value from within himself. He knows he's valuable, and he knows that because he knows it internally. Well, one of the things I discovered from this book is that my validation comes from outside of me. It comes from what other people see that I am doing for others. How much am I doing for others? And part of that's my love language too. Like, my love language is investing my time. I'm going to invest my time in you. And so like my validation comes from outside. And that was one of the things this book helped me with, was understanding why am I like that? And so when I'm in my own head and my head is telling me things like, oh, you're not good enough. Why didn't you continue to be the treasurer? Or why didn't you offer to be this? Or why aren't you in the PTA? Or why didn't you take on this job or this job or this job or this job? Why do you keep saying no? Instead of allowing that saboteur in my head to pull me down, knowing that it's a saboteur, I can just let it pass. And that's the beauty of this book, is it helps you identify these saboteurs that are within you, so that when those voices start kicking you while you're down, you can be like, oh, you're just a saboteur. and you kind of just, I'm not going to say you don't think about it some and it doesn't get you down, but you will at some point realize, wait a second, that's not me talking to me. That's the saboteur me talking to me. And you're able to let those thoughts pass through.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. And that's like half the battle right there, is just understanding yourself before, there's a lot of, you can learn every skill in the world, but if you yourself, let's say you're always trying to, you're your own worst enemy, right? And like that, not understanding that we can become our own saboteur, right? Or you'll see that time and time again. It's like, oh, you'll hit a certain level of success. Oh, no. You don't deserve that. And you stop doing the one more. Right. And then it's like, okay, then that derails your progress. Right. And so, yeah, no, that's huge. That's a great book recommendation. That's the first time I've heard that recommended.
Awesome. And there's like if you get the book and you look in it, or you Google like positive intelligence self-assessment, you can do a self-assessment where you answer a bunch of questions and it tells you what your top saboteurs are.
Nice. All right. Awesome. I'm going to do that.
Were like, it was, of course, the affirmations piece of it. And then it was like restless. So like I always need to be doing things, and then I find validation from what I'm doing for everybody else. So it's like all these things that are tied in together, and that top level of just like, I'll have to look. I'll look for it while we're still going, but I'll come back to it if I think about it. But it's just about these 3 different levels of where things fall out. As far as the saboteur, because there's 9 saboteurs, so there's like all of these different things here. But I should have looked it up before we started talking. That's
not. Oh no, you're fine. That's I'm going to check it out. So I would encourage our listeners to check it out. The better you know yourself, the better that you can have your partners and other people work with you as well, and know how you can best work with them too, right? Because everybody
loves to learn more stuff
about the puzzle.
Everybody loves to learn about themselves. Yeah. So it's super helpful, and I think it's a really good source and a good.
Great recommendation. All right, next question. What would you consider? What's your superpower?
My superpower is absolutely relationships. Whether those are with investors or vendors or PMCs or just people in general. It takes me about 15 minutes to create a more than a handshake relationship. I've got it down to I don't want to say I've got it down to an art, but I kind of got it down to an art. When you go up to meet somebody, you're looking at how they're responding to you. And so I have ADHD really bad. I try really hard not to come at people with 100% angel, because most people can't handle 100%. So I try and come in about 50 to 70% angel. And you kind of mirror people, like, how are they talking fast? Because I talk really fast. And so I like tone down the speed, and I tone down the volume, and I try and tone down my sporadic craziness. And I try and just keep it all the way that I see other people acting, so that I'm responding appropriately. And then you start trying to relate to them. What do you have in common? And as soon as you find those commonalities, even an introvert will start talking to you. And you start building those relationships up, and it's a lot of fun. And that's my superpower. And then I have a really great memory.
There you go.
I'm 46. I'm afraid of where it's going to go in the next 10, 15 years. But right now I have an amazing memory. And it's very helpful when it comes to just talking to people and learning about people and letting them know you generally care about what they have to say, because 6 months from now, I'm probably going to remember the last conversation we had. And we're going to be able to pick it up right where we left off, and we're not going to miss a beat. So
yeah, that's definitely a superpower. So no, that's very good.
And it's fun.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like you that's the deal about superpowers, right? It's like, well, I'm good at it. Okay, great. Recognize it, play to that strength. And then it's life-giving too, right? Like, it's fulfilling for you.
Absolutely.
You get to operate, and it's a win-win typically. All right, awesome. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned over your career thus far?
I've shared this one a lot, but I'm the kind of person that I really use my inner compass. So I trust my gut a lot. You can't just trust your gut. Do not be embarrassed about reconning people, because when we first got started, I thought that if I did a lot of recon on people, that I was going to look inexperienced and green. And so we invested in 4 different operating teams. 3 of them were amazing. One of them wasn't so great, but my gut said all 4 of them were pretty good. And so when one of those 4 deals went sideways, this was another hit to my, to my confidence and another thing that I had a really hard time getting over because my inner compass had failed me. And so don't be afraid to recon operating teams. And don't just go on the referral list. Like put it out there to Facebook, put it out there to LinkedIn and be like, hey, what do you know about XYZ team? Or hit up some people in their DMs and that you feel like are knowledgeable about other teams, or they're a big player in the space, and be like, hey, I'm thinking about investing. Can you help me pick a team? What have you heard about XYZ? Do you know so-and-so? Because it's a pretty small space.
Right.
And somebody's going to have somebody's going to have dirt on somebody. And like, if somebody were to ask me, I would tell them who to not invest with, because that one of those first four will never invest with that team again. I don't care how successful they get or how knowledgeable they get or how much better their deals become. I will never invest with them again.
Yep.
And you just need to recon it. It does not make you look inexperienced. It does not make you look green. It actually is totally contrary to that. It makes you look experienced, and it makes you look like you know what you're doing, because you're doing what the other experienced players in the space are doing, and you're reconning that team. I can't tell you how many people reach out to me and be like, hey, Angel, you heard of so-and-so? Because like I said, I got this memory, right? So I remember people, and a lot of people talk to me. So a lot of what I will share is firsthand information. And if it's secondhand, I'm going to tell you, hey, this is secondhand, take it for what it's worth. But most of the time, I'm only sharing what has happened to me or what I have been told firsthand. I'm not gonna gossip and share a bunch of crap that I don't know for true. But if I know it for true, I will 100% share it, because I'm trying to help out everybody, and that's that teacher part of me. I don't want to see anybody get set up for failure.
Of course. And that's absolutely a veteran move right there too. That's not an inexperienced move. Yeah. A newbie is the one who shies away from that. So, that's good. That's great. That only comes from experience, honestly. All right. And then for the busy working professional that's trying to work towards financial freedom, what advice would you have for them?
Find a team you trust. Let your dollars work for you. And don't be afraid of the minimum investment. If the minimum investment is 50, 75, 100, ask if you can come in for a lesser amount, because guess what? They're either going to get a lesser amount or they're going to get zero. And if they won't take a lesser amount, find another team. Because if you've only got 50,000 to invest, I would say try and get into 2 different deals at 25 a piece. That way you're diversifying. If one happens to not perform quite the way they thought it was going to perform. So you're protecting yourself, you're getting in more than one deal, and it gives you more experiences. You get to experience 2 teams as opposed to one, but you still need to recon both teams and make
Well, no, and you're right too, because it's like, well, hey, let's say minimum's 50. Well, I've got 35 or I've got 40. And it's like, hey, you know what? You can still likely get into a deal. Like, don't be afraid. Don't shy away. Reach out. And if there's a relationship that wants to, be built there, a lot of times you can still get in on something along those lines. So yeah, no, that's a great one, Angel. All right. Well, if our audience wants to reach out with you, to get in touch with you, kind of what are the best avenues that you guys have set up, and how can they do that?
Absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Angel Williams on LinkedIn, and I answer my own messages. We've also got the academypresents.com or laurencapital.com. My husband is Jason Williams, PhD, on LinkedIn, and we answer our messages. So we haven't put that off in a VA. That's us. We will actually respond. It is truly us. If you go to Lauren Capital, you're going to find our emails, but we're not hard to get in touch with. So, and I think Jason even has his phone number on his LinkedIn. It's insane.
That's awesome.
He's accessible too. So if you need one of us, or you're looking to, just learn about real estate and you want a low cost method to do that, we've got a subscription into our library with over 400 hours of content from previous summits. And that's like under $20 a month. So you would be able to get onto that through the academypresents.com and just check out information. Because again, I'm not out there as an educator what educator makes money being an educator? I'm just putting it out there because my teacher heart is like, I want to give out the information, but we have to maintain the website.
Of course.
So we got to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and then you're over delivering with that too, right? So that's great. That's awesome. Well, very cool. Well, Angel, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I really appreciate our conversation. I know our listeners, have gotten some great value out of that. So, thanks so much for coming on, sharing your time and your experience. Really appreciate it. We'll have to check back in with you in the future. All right.
Absolutely. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
And if anybody's in Wichita Falls, you're ever visiting Wichita Falls, make sure you hit up Angel.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Again, have a great day. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Aloha. Oh, what a great conversation with Angel Williams over with Lauren Capital. So very cool, very cool. Awesome story. And I'm glad that we got a chance to have her kind of share some of her life experience. A lot of that, we don't typically hear, from operators and other investors. Everybody just wants to scream from the mountaintops, when they're on the mountaintops. But there's a whole lot, that kind of happens just in our life journey to getting to that point to begin with. Also love that she shares and she works with her husband, Jason, as well. I know that's a aspirational thing for a lot of people. I don't think that's possible for them, but they would love to, maybe work with their spouse. So there's definitely ways to do it. So I'm glad that she shared with that. She had some great book recommendations as well. Positive Intelligence. And she mentioned another one, Soundtracks. Again, a lot of these deal with mindset and kind of understanding yourself better as an individual. And that can help you to be, the more you know about yourself, the better, investor you'll be, the better partner you'll be. Dealing with business and all that kind of stuff. So you can kind of help shore up your weaknesses, play to your strengths, and to help understand, your partners and whatnot a lot better as well. So, a great interview with Angel. Well, if you guys are interested in investing with us, make sure you're checking out website, tricityequity.com. You can connect with all of our team members, all the general partners, and just learn a little bit more about previous deals, current deals, that kind of stuff. If you want to connect with other like-minded investors and you're here local, join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and more. We have meetups every month. Would love to meet you in person if you're on island, whether you're based from Hawaii, if you're military and you're coming out to be stationed out here, or you're just visiting. Hey, great way to make it a write-off. Come to a networking event, meet some other investors that are either looking to get started or people that have experience. We'd love to meet you. Of course, if you found value in the podcast, we'd love your 5-star review. Make sure you're sharing it with friends. Make sure if you're finding us on YouTube, we'd love a comment, love a subscription. All of that helps us to, get kind of, these valuable interviews out to more people and really just to kind of give encouragement, information, education out to, to the people that need to hear it. And of course, if you guys are, you're going to be here on island, or if you were interested in coming on island to a conference, looking for an excuse to come out to Hawaii, June 29th to July 1st, we're going to have the second Hawaii Millionaire Mindset Conference. And that's over on the Big Island this year. So great way to go check out the volcano, meet some amazing people, learn some amazing things about business, real estate investing, and more. So make sure that you're making plans to attend that. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. I'm signing off. This is Steve Fieros, and we'll see you next time. Aloha.